Judy. And I'm going to switch between just you seeing me and then seeing the slides. But yeah, that is the purpose of today is kind of talk about the emotion journal that I wrote. It came out last year. And the whole goal was noticing that a lot of my clients are avid gamers. And in particular, Minecraft is a, you know, probably the most popular game that is around right now. And I played Hypixel, like a bunch of different ways of engaging with my clients throughout the pandemic on Minecraft and, Fortnite, chess.com, a few other gaming sites as well. And the more that I recognized the benefit of incorporating gaming into therapy, I ended up developing this book to then share with other people or other therapists to use with their clients. Because in all of my different online forums or other therapists that I knew, so many therapists were having difficulty connecting with their clients through telehealth, through digital means. And as I kind of created this format, it really worked out of just creating a realm, or I had a server at one point, and just having a conversation as we went through and played, in creative mode of Minecraft together, and then also starting to incorporate ways of journaling whenever we're not having a session. So I'm going to talk about the book where it really, encourages you to use signs in game or book and quills, and there's two different tools for just writing in game. And it's also a great way for kids where, if you don't have a lot of privacy, you can then have this way of journaling. You can have this way of, documenting your feelings in your favorite game. And for a lot of adults that I game with, it was really helpful for them of saying like, oh yeah, I didn't recognize that there was this other tool. Because if you ask me to journal, you ask me to get out a sheet of paper and start writing, I have dysgraphia, or sometimes just tough to do so. But I'm chatting all the time. So if I'm in Roblox or I'm in Minecraft or, any other kind of online forum, I can type all day. So then I incorporated that format, and then sometimes we're not available to be online. Sometimes we do need a book or something to carry with us. So I kind of summarized all those ideas that I use in therapy and made a great emotion journal for everyone to use. So today I'm going to kind of go through and describe the book and answer any questions that you have. I'm fine at stopping at any given point. I love questions. I love talking it through, and even to make the point a little further, I made my realm available to everyone today. So even if you are on Minecraft right now, or Bedrock version, not Java, you can even join and take a tour around, because this is a realm that a lot of clients have joined, built different structures, made different things. There's a bunch of surprises along the way, and one of them is the library that's shaped like a piece of bread, and inside is a lot of different journals and a lot of different things to write about and understand your emotions a little bit more. So in that, I'll start my slide. So I'm going to start sharing my screen in a moment, and you get to see whole journal in all of its glory. So here's the cover of the book. It's my emotion journal, tracking the highs and lows of our feelings. I also wrote another book called Parenting and Asperger's that came out 3 years ago now. Both available on Amazon. They the Parenting and Asperger's is distributed by Simon and Schuster, if you know that one. And well, this one I self-published, and had a lot of fun doing so. Working with creative types and organizing everything was a lot of fun. And well, I kind of enjoy having Minecraft as a theme, where surprisingly enough, Microsoft and Mojang are perfectly comfortable with you using their IP to then create content, and they're really supportive of that environment. And I want to just say how much I do appreciate their being open to those opportunities. So, identifying emotions. Why do we do this? Why does an emotion journal exist? And why do people write things down? Well, surprisingly, there isn't a whole lot of research on journaling. There's gratitude journaling research, and there's a little bit of expressive journaling. But the one thing we haven't really addressed, and there's some research I'll reference as we get into the presentation, but what we address is that we kind of skip over this part. So social emotional learning addresses it a little bit, but to kind of be peaceful, to kind of be content in life, we have to identify a lot of basic emotions, recognize it in our body, be able to recognize it in others, and then be able to communicate effectively about it. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about the science behind it and the different levels of emotional awareness. But having a book like this that's more of a guided journal wasn't out there. There's a bunch of journals where it's just one page and say, how do I feel today? Smiley face, sad face. Um, it wasn't written for individuals on the spectrum. It wasn't written for individuals that struggle with identifying the emotion or having a disconnect between our body and, our verbal stated expression of emotions. So I tried to write this book that really addresses that particular aspect where it's a little bit of teaching and a little bit of journaling. So it's a good blend of both, where it's like going to probably a first session with me and saying like, Michael, sometimes I outburst, like I think I'm fine most of the time. And then I, have a meltdown and I'm not sure why I have a meltdown. Sometimes it's a sensory meltdown. Other times it's, a situation or, feeling pressured by others. And I don't know what emotion I'm feeling. So I've used this book and just the Minecraft process with clients from the age of 5 all the way up to 45. So it is a universal challenge sometimes to really recognize our emotions and then be able to consistently journal them. Because once we have a map of our emotions, we have a map of how we feel, we then can figure out how to change them. So me being a cognitive behavioral therapist and then trying to talk through how to change our emotions, um, I'm kind of skipping over, or just making the assumption that how to express your thoughts and feelings. You know how to, identify at least, the basic emotions that I go through in the book. And I think that was an error. So now this book and, just in general, I stop and say like, all right, so what does anger feel like for you? What does sadness feel like for you? So in saying so, let's jump in. So in this journal, well, in this presentation, I go through with the journal, how emotions lead to most of our decisions. So particularly for my clients that are diagnosed with autism, they have a belief that they're incredibly logical. And then as we talk through things, they are incredibly logical, but aren't recognizing like how intense their emotions are that then lead the logic to then conclude whatever their emotions were feeling to begin with. So if you feel really intensely about something, you will likely logically go through or do emotional reasoning to then say why this is a good idea. And then whenever it doesn't feel like a good idea or whatever, you've made some, it's called like cognitive distortions. You'd have some logical fallacies in that. You then have shame or regret about the decision that you made that felt logically right. And then it's really uncomfortable talking to someone else about it. So then you feel really awful and you feel really stuck. The journal helps in that moment of really kind of naming each of those emotions as a way to then know whenever your emotions are really driving your logic. And the more that you can identify those emotions as being really intense, you realize that sometimes it's healthy and you should feel really emotionally intense about something and then make a decision in line with that. But whenever there are negative emotions or a complex set of emotions, sometimes we may make a choice that isn't really in line with who we are as a person, and it's really confusing and it's really surprising. So the more that you can journal your feelings and emotions, you have a higher chance of living your life authentically and being able to then make a choice that's aware of your emotional state, aware that your heart may be beating fast, aware that you may be trying to avoid conflict and then just appeasing somebody. So all of those complex emotions without being recognized then guide our life, and it feels really unpredictable and chaotic. So this is a way to give yourself order, give yourself peacefulness, and give yourself direction that you're going in a direction that you really like. And I like using Minecraft to describe it, because sometimes just sitting there with a therapist and going through just the book and just going through describing these emotions can be really boring. And I am not a fan of being a boring therapist. I try to be interactive. I try to make it engaging. I try to really understand what each person's thinking and feeling, because otherwise, like, yeah, I don't want someone sitting there like, okay, okay, okay. I really want them to be as engaged in the content and recognize that I'm actually listening and tailoring all of my knowledge into their life. And the book hopefully does so as well. So yes, the book was created with that idea that we're not always online. We don't always have a server around us. And particularly, I was thinking of like being in a school environment where if you're in the middle of a school day and you think it's a bad day, you can journal, you can pull this out, the teacher won't judge you, no one else will judge you. You can just write it down and, then pivot. Other times it may be like at a restaurant or other situations that you may need to just go through and journal things. So whenever a device isn't around, this journal is a good companion. The bedrock realm that I was talking about, again, feel free to join it. I made it active right now. And this is the one that I use in session. So you'll find a bunch of different random creations. You'll find a newspaper that someone created to journal things and made, an entire, creative story up. You'll find hidden, chests inside like a underground like bunker. You'll find a bunch of zombies randomly roaming around. You'll find a bunch of humorously named sheep and cats just roaming the world. So if you see a bored sheep, you'll know that someone just named him bored sheep one day, and that was just kind of fun. So when you have a device, go ahead and use Minecraft. If you don't, go ahead and use the book. I'm going to have 5 different lessons, but 1, 2, and 3 are probably the bulk of it. 4 and 5 are just a slide each. So I'm going to go through and, kind of outline the levels of emotional awareness, how the journal kind of helps you identify those emotions. Then I'm going to go through just a basic chapter tour of the book. And then I'm going to go through how to appreciate the benefits of a digital world with your gamer. And then number 5 is how to keep it going. And as, a caretaker, or even as yourself, well, what's it like playing video games and identifying the emotions that you're feeling? It's not just Minecraft, it's across the board. So using games to regulate our emotions is a healthy expression, and there isn't much research behind it. It's kind of my special interest of incorporating a digital world into cognitive behavioral therapy and just overall well-being. And I found a lot of success with it, and it's, my passion. So level 1, or lesson 1, levels of emotional awareness. So in understanding social emotional learning and just going through that process, I found some gaps in it. So I kept trying to find research or other individuals that would really help people go beyond just, what are, for the zones of regulation kind of crowd. We understand that we're good to go. We understand when we're kind of on edge. We understand when we're like in a crisis state or we're just feeling kind of down or low key. So the 4 colors. What we don't understand is that it's really hard to identify those things if we're not aware of which level of emotional awareness we have. So as a therapist, or even, as I worked in different environments, sometimes our clients or just ourselves struggle with noticing what the difference between sympathy and empathy are, what different emotion may be more accurate than just saying I feel good or bad. And this book kind of takes you from that it's positive and negative valence or of emotion into understanding at least 8 emotions. And in doing so, if you name it, you understand it, you can then change it. So let's jump in and I'll start describing it. So in lesson 1, what are emotions? And sorry, I paused for a second there. The screen kind of overtook my slide, so I couldn't see everything. I'm minimizing things a bit. So to understand emotional awareness, one must first consider what emotion is. So for the purpose of this presentation and just my book, emotions are our body's responses to our thoughts about the world. So in real life or virtually. Anytime we think in cognitive behavioral therapy terms, we have our thoughts, we have our behaviors, and we have our emotions. So through therapy, if you change your thoughts and you change your behaviors, welcome Dot, you're able to change your emotions and in the context of our environment. So if you're able to figure out the levers for changing your mood or just changing how you feel, you have a higher chance of putting yourself in the mood that you want to feel at that moment. So emotional awareness, in addition to that, is us seeing that this behavior is happening and then being able to name it. So this book is all about emotional awareness. A more complete description coming out of the research that I'm going to reference in a little bit of Lane and Smith in 2021 is that moment-to-moment changes in emotional experience correspond to continual and automatic. So example given, like without intention or effort. So adjustments in physiological, cognitive, and motivational states based on continual, implicit, or explicit evaluations of the extent to which needs, goals, and values are being met or not met in interaction with our environment. So there's a reason I don't usually just describe that whole thing, but that is the definition of emotions and kind of how we understand it to a professional degree, is the more that we understand how closely tied emotions are to our needs, our goals, and our values, we can then identify the emotion, identify our needs, and then recognize whether that emotion is meeting those needs or not, and then shifting our behavior to have our emotions match what our needs or values are. So the levels of emotional awareness. So these are the basic levels of emotions as described by Richard D. Lane and Ryan Smith in the Journal of Intelligence, September 2021, and it's on page 5. So this is all new stuff. We haven't really described it as formally as this before, but social emotional learning kind of has, and I just appreciated how they added to it. So I oversimplified the levels for the purpose of this presentation, but I do think it's, kind of helpful. So this journal was written for level 2 and 3 individuals, and participants don't need to know what level they're at, but it really helps everyone choose strategies to help improve someone's emotional awareness just by kind of having a general idea of which level that you're at. So for level 1, you kind of are able to express your emotions physically, but you may not be able to name them. So everyone feels an emotion when something happens, whether it's externalized, internalized, a mild emotion, an intense emotion, it still occurs. So whenever I have someone do the zones of regulation and say, like, is this a small deal, medium deal, or big deal? Someone at level 1 wouldn't get that explanation because they're just feeling it, they're not evaluating it. So level 2 is whenever you start feeling your emotions and start thinking whether it's good or bad, just positive or negative, and then I'm at baseline or I'm kind of chill. So this book, and I'll get to it in a little bit, but recognizes that someone at level 2 isn't going to really connect with a lot of the other content of identifying emotions. So sometimes therapy or just a conversation is really needed to focus just on the level 2 side of, is this a good emotion or bad emotion? But I don't like using the word bad, I use negative. Because it isn't a bad emotion. We should cry, we should feel sad, we should feel awful sometimes. But the general understanding in society is that that's a bad emotion. So whenever you label something as bad, people try to avoid it. And a lot of autistic individuals that I work with think that they shouldn't feel sad, they shouldn't feel disappointed, they shouldn't feel frustrated. But that's not the case. We should feel all of those emotions. The only time that it'd be inappropriate is whenever we express those emotions in a way that violates someone else's boundaries or well-being. So yelling at somebody, screaming at somebody, throwing something physically, threatening somebody. That's the only time that a negative emotion is discouraged of being expressed. But if you still feel it and you don't express it in a way that violates people's boundaries, that is a healthy negative emotion. So level 3 is you can identify the emotions identified in this book. I go through the basic ones. So if you ever saw Inside Out, they kind of go through the basic 5. Paul Ekman, the kind of leader in emotional identification, helped guide that movie, and then the upcoming Inside Out 2 takes on a few other emotions. I use those characters a lot in therapy, but couldn't use those characters. Disney Pixar is not a big fan of having people write books about all those different characters that isn't within their wheelhouse. So I'd always be up for writing that, but that's kind of their thing. So Minecraft is all about it. I use Minecraft, and it's the most effective way for me to describe a lot of these emotions, and had a lot of fun doing so. So level 4 individuals, it's whenever you can notice that you're feeling 2 emotions at once. So even ones in conflict with each other. So if you ever feel like a little bit sad about something that occurred, but you're also kind of hopeful about something else happening later that day, or you had 2 things happen that day, one was good, one was bad, you can experience both those emotions at the same time and then show sympathy to someone else as they're experiencing emotion. That's level 4. Level 5 is the highest level of emotional awareness, and it really incorporates your ability to empathize with someone's emotional state. So it's having the ability to identify your emotions, knowing how it feels in your body, and then scanning someone else and having a mostly accurate understanding of where they are at, and then feeling compassion for them experiencing that emotion without duplicating that emotion. Because sometimes autistic individuals I work with would then observe everyone around them having an emotion that's intense, and they internally duplicate that emotion, and it's overwhelming. So someone else experiencing a meltdown would also potentially create a meltdown in yourself because you feel exactly what they're feeling by observing it. So having empathy and feeling someone someone else's emotional state is healthy, but whenever the degree of intense emotion is the same as someone else's regularly, the world can be really overwhelming. And I try to help individuals avoid an autistic meltdown or sensory meltdown by being able to have a milder emotional response to someone else's intense emotional response. But that's beyond this book. That's just something I do in therapy. So identifying emotions, lesson 2. When you improve your skills in identifying emotions, you're actually better at self-regulation and emotional regulation. So it's a skill. It's something that can be broken down in an educational setting kind of format and is readily, teachable in this format. So there aren't that many books on just emotional identification and being able to then write about a certain scenario or a certain day that you had that had this emotion. So we get to journal about it. So the book has a process that I write like 3 paragraphs identifying the emotion and then giving an example of something that's happened in Minecraft that is related to that emotion. And then I give you like 3 or 4 pages to then, journal that emotion. And you can write it, you can draw it, you can use emoticons. I'll get into details like how to do it, but the whole goal is to recognize just in Minecraft how these things may occur and then how to journal it. You don't have to just use Minecraft examples, but the book really just uses those things to really engage the reader. So for a lot of these next slides, I actually take literal pages out of the book and reference them. So this is the table of contents. So it's, a short book. It's a journal though, and it goes through each emotion. And at the beginning, I just kind of give you like a how-to. So we're going to go through and then identify like, oh, well, what's an emotion inventory? How to journal our emotions. And then I go through in a sequence of events like, what it's like to be sad, to worry, to be happy, to be angry, to be offended or disgusted, to be shameful or to be prideful. Those 2 identity emotions are actually really important and kind of get missed. So whenever people talk about the 5 basic emotions, I'm always emphasizing, oh, no. We got to go beyond, those 5, because shame and pride are really important to our overall sense of well-being. And well, I had control over this book, so I included it. So on this page, I kind of go through and, describe to the reader how to be able to identify their emotions, how to process through them without caregiver support, without someone else kind of guiding you through it, because I would, prefer for someone to read through this on their own and then journal through it on their own, and it be their private journal that, caregivers or others respect the boundary that no one else is touching this thing. I also have PDF copies of the journal entry pages. If you don't want to buy the book, can't afford the book, whatever, I don't care. You can go on my website and I have PDF reproducibles of it. You can just download and use on your own to identify emotions in the journal. So I really want everyone to benefit from this product and to be able to have the ability to then identify their emotions. And well, I want you to go through and just kind of try it out and see like, oh, well, even as an adult, neurotypical, how am I feeling today? A lot of people don't have that ability to identify the specific emotion. They just have more of a general idea that it's a good feeling or a bad feeling. But the more you can be specific about it, then you can pivot it, then you can do a lot of different techniques that I kind of teach in therapy to then shift that emotion. So it's kind of rare for us to have a truly bad day, but we certainly have truly bad moments. So lesson 2, a little bit more on chapter 1. So on this page, I really talk about for level 2 learners, how to identify a positive, negative, or neutral emotion. And I give you different tools to then be able to journal it. So emotions are pretty complex, but for level 2 learners, let's start where they're at. We can identify whether I'm feeling, a positive emotion, a good emotion, to some degree, or a negative emotion, or feeling down a bit. And if you're able to just identify positive or negative without saying, happy, sad, angry, frustrated, that's a start. And then neutral I included because sometimes we say like, oh, well, we're always feeling good or, negative, but we're not. Sometimes we're just meh, we're just peaceful. And with ACT therapy that I do, acceptance and commitment therapy, and some of the meditations that I teach individuals to do, the goal is to be peaceful and to not have thoughts just keep hitting you over and over again. So whether it's intrusive thoughts of OCD, or it's just, random thoughts of having ADHD, of just, all those tangential thoughts coming up, or sometimes it's our, chosen, just thoughts where we're just thinking through something that we really like and it's really satisfying. All of those things sometimes interrupt our ability to be content or peaceful. And the more that we can have that sense of, it doesn't have to be a positive or negative emotion, we may be in a good place too. So this section really gives you that ability to say, I'm going to draw a plus sign, a minus sign, or a circle for neutral. And I'm at least journaling. It's a start. So I give you on each page that you'll see in a little bit, 6 different boxes, because I found that on most days, we have about 6 events that can change our emotions positively or negatively. Sometimes it's whenever we get up, sometimes we go off to work or school, other times it's around lunchtime, other times it's a, interaction with someone else. And then we have, getting home or traveling home, or, traffic, or just at night whenever we're gaming or just having fun online, there's going to be an emotional state. So for each day, having 6 different boxes to kind of write positive or negative things seem to be the norm and seem to be kind of appropriate. And I totally choose the inventory box from Minecraft, which isn't exactly a parallel, but hey, it's a box. I can put a plus or minus sign in. So I chose that to use in the journal. So the next part is, well, what do I do whenever I notice a pattern? Because if I'm teaching people to notice positive or negative emotions, I also want them to recognize that if there is something a little bit more worrisome, dangerous self or others, those kinds of concerns, that I just wanted to make a note in the book that if it's kind of really negative and things aren't going so well, it's really important to then talk to someone that you trust, that you're not feeling in a good space, you really need a little bit of help, and you really want to be able to find more support than this book can offer. Please reach out to someone that you trust, and then keep asking until someone does give you that help or support. Because sometimes when people reach out, not a lot of people like really take it seriously or hear them the way that they need to. So keep asking until you find support is my message. I'm also a science nerd. So I talked about the positive and negative emotions, talked about reaching out in a crisis. I didn't talk about just how our body feels things. So why is my heart beating really fast? Like, why do I struggle sometimes with just understanding, my, degree of what kind of chemical reactions are happening in my body to then lead me to feel really elated or excited? Or, people talk about like a dopamine boost. Well, what is dopamine actually doing then? It's not just like floating through our system and then saying, hey, I'm here. What happens? No, there's a bunch of different biological responses that are much more complex than that, that we're not going to get into in this book. But no, there's science behind it. Is we have a thought, a bunch of things and messages go throughout our body, through our nerves and through, our endocrine system, all of these things to then feel an emotion. So this little signal travels around our body and then we react. So emotions are really tough to be able to just change on their own. We can't just say, I'm going to feel happy now, and then our body feels happy. If that happened, that'd be awesome, but we can't. So we have to change our thoughts or behaviors, which then lead to our emotional change. And that's the core of cognitive behavioral therapy. And this journal is that key part of just changing our thoughts. If we're able to journal it and change the way we're thinking about our emotions, we have a higher chance of our emotions then shifting. I'm not that artistic. If you ask me to draw a lot of different things, I'll try, and it may take me a really long time. And I know a lot of my readers are with me on this. So one part of the book I go through now is just drawing the different emoticons. So happy, sad, angry, peaceful, ashamed, proud, and worried all have emoticons. And if you draw these things on those, little blocks, you know which emotion you're feeling, and you have, this template to go to say, oh, that was the emotion that I'm feeling. So angry is a very funny one, and like a lot of individuals don't use it anymore. So I really love how that exists. Um, and ashamed, like the squirrely kind of face, the lips, I really appreciate that one. So sometimes just in going through this journal and people see those emoticons, they're like, oh, that's what that means. So I'm glad to share that with you. Um, the best part, most important part of the book is the actual journal page. So like out of the entire book, I would say probably 40% of it is literally just this page reproduced over and over again. So as I teach you the emotion, I then give you the journal page to write it down. So this is where most of the writing occurs. Is I give you a sign, which in Minecraft, you can craft a sign. There's like a bunch of different wood types you can make it out of and personalize it a little bit. And you have 3 lines available to just write something on it. Um, so here, I just have you handwrite onto that sign just what feelings you're having, what situation occurred, or just if you want to draw like a face. I don't care what you draw. It's important that you're expressing emotions. And up top, you have the boxes to just draw the plus, minus, circle, or now all those emoticons that I gave you to be able to write. So a little bit more of this is, I want the book to seem intuitive. So as you go through, and I want you to appreciate that, well, Minecraft is kind of fun. So as you go through and play, sometimes you think you're just like punching a tree, but in reality, you're changing your world to then fit your own needs. And that's kind of what we're doing with journaling is we're going through a world, we're going through this book, we're going through life, and then making small changes to then make it something that we own and that we appreciate and that we like. And every time that we do so, we have a little bit more control because so many autistic individuals that I work with feel controlled by the neurotypicals around them and they don't really appreciate it. So the more that you actually develop this skill or go through this journal, you have more autonomy, you have more control over your situation, over your thoughts, over your behaviors, and eventually over your emotions. So I tried to make this really relatable to the Minecraft crowd, and hopefully it hits. With the reviews that I got, people loved it. Feel free to check out the book and write a review on Amazon as well. I always appreciate your honest feelings. And well, because I'm the publisher, I can also change it and have, version 2 as, soon as possible if there's anything else that you notice that you think would make it better. So in addition to the basic format, the sign and the inventory, I also recognize that some of my clients really like to just write long form. And a lot of autistic individuals are really good at role playing and or doing long form. And I wanted to give them space and recognition that's really healthy as well. Because a lot of times when you write a whole bunch of data, you tell me a bunch of things, you don't feel those emotions as well. So in this page, this is literally just the book and quill. Whenever you're in Minecraft, you can collect an item called book and quill and then write in it. You can sign it as the author and then make it so no one can change it. And then you can put it away into something called a chiseled bookshelf, which is, new in the last few months on Minecraft. So you can actually have your own library of journal entries within the actual like bedrock, like traditional version of Minecraft. There's also Java edition that I really love, and like that's probably where I spend most of the time doing mods and stuff like that, play with my kids. But Bedrock is the one that's available to everyone. You can use it on your phone, Windows PC, Mac, Chromebook, Education edition. There's a bunch of teachers that have their students even use it in the classroom. It is the most widely available version of Minecraft. That's why I emphasize this version instead of Java, which you have to, have a little bit more of a training or understanding of how literally Java works to make the most out of that version of Minecraft. It's the original. So chapter 3. In this chapter, I start really just diving deep into each of our emotions. So I start off with sad feelings. Whenever we're journaling, and most of the time people ask us like how we journal our emotions, well, sadness is the first one we're kind of looking at. Because if you're kind of angry, there's not a great chance that you're going to journal emotions. You may, but sadness is number one emotion that people like to journal about or appreciate journaling about or are more motivated to journal about. So I describe a little bit in this chapter how our body feels emotions. And I gave an example of this one YouTuber that passed away that everyone loved. So like a year and a half ago now, like this incredibly famous YouTuber. Like, it was really funny, really sarcastic. Like, if you ever watch any of these videos that I give a link to in the presentation, his name was Technoblade, and he was universally loved. Like, there wasn't a, Minecraft player that I know that had a negative thought about this guy. And unfortunately, he passed away, and it was really sad. And most of the communities on Minecraft got together and had a memorial for him. So, like, we talk about, like, well, online environments. I don't understand that as a parent or a caregiver. In this situation, so many people that love playing Minecraft communicated with each other really respectfully and universally showed grief and loss in a really healthy way. And I wanted to just give a moment to that because um, a lot of caregivers or parents that I know think negatively of a lot of online interactions or, like, going onto a server. But Hypixel in particular is the most popular server, and that one had like a great response to Technoblade passing away. Chapter 4, worry feelings. So instead of using the word anxiety, which a lot of people kind of get, but like worry is a little bit more of a universal term, I went through in this chapter and just talked about what it's like to worry. Like, whenever we're playing a video game, we're worried about things. So there's like a joke in Minecraft, like, don't mine at night because you're worried that all these creatures may come out and, wreck you, which they probably will. So I talk about being scared. I talk about being anxious a bit. But I try to use words that are really relatable and whenever you're playing Minecraft, because the more that you have like a PvP environment or you can play against other people, you may have more anxiety that you may get killed or you may lose items, or it's called like survival world, where the creatures can kill you. So a lot of times when I encourage someone to be peaceful, I say go into literal, like, creative mode or peace survival / peaceful mode, and you won't get killed. You won't, have things come after you and try to wreck all your stuff. Um, but whenever you are in a PvP or you are in a survival world, you do then worry about, bad things happening to you. So chapter 5, happy feelings. Man, I just stressed you out. I talked about like a YouTuber passing away, and then I talked about, like, getting killed in a game. So that's intense. So I figured, chapter 5, let's just focus a little bit on just, talking about happy feelings, talking about like things that make us just feel really, kind of, like life's worth living, like we're in a good place. So I go through and give an example of what happy thoughts are, like how our, our breathing slows down. We may notice like our literal, like, smile comes across our face, our demeanor changes, we're happy. And the example I gave is there's this one YouTuber, LD Shadow Lady, that has been just a positive force for, my kid as well as, a bunch of other people out there. She's a UK streamer. She goes on, does like SMPs, like, if you know what that is. It's a survival multiplayer like realms, and like just is really creative, really kind, and really supportive of the community. I rarely hear someone say that they don't feel happy after watching, something that LD Shadow Lady did. So chapter 6, angry feelings. So what happens when you feel really, really angry in a game? Well, do you throw something? Do you yell? Do you scream? Do you just ah? So let's talk about it. Let's write it down. And the more that you can talk about angry feelings and identify how your body's feeling, you then have a higher chance of pivoting it before you keep pushing yourself to the point that you would do something that you then regret. So in the journal, I hope that you just go through and identify exactly what that feeling is. And well, the more that you can work through anger and the more that you can have peacefulness, you'll likely be in a better place. So sorry, I had my assistant join me here. Ah, sorry. She also took a screen grab. All right. There we go. Offended feelings, or the feeling of disgust. So being offended means that we feel uncomfortable with something. I think it's really helpful for the gamer crowd to notice that sometimes when we're online, people will do something that may make us feel upset or irritate us or troll us. And we don't recognize what that is. We just get upset. Um, or, people are saying things sarcastically or messing with us or have an ulterior motive. to then just say something, and we're not recognizing like that, oh, they're just trying to irritate me, or they're having a bad day. I'm not going to take it personally. So chapter 7 is all about identifying that there is a darker side of Minecraft. It does exist. People can be jerks. They can be rude. They can make fun of you. And sometimes we're the ones doing it as well. So if you're able to identify that there's something that makes you feel uncomfortable, disgusted, or offended, to also journal that too, because that is a part of this entire world. If we were able to make it completely, fenced off and appropriate, well, we would do that with school. At school, you find offensive and inappropriate things too. That's a part of the world where we can't really set a great limit between ourselves and people that are, doing random odd things that are beyond our comfort zone. So always have close supervision whenever you're gaming online, if that is something that is a huge trigger for you. And, for, for reaching out, it really helps to have a support system, whether it's a peer, whether it's a parent, whether it's a trusted adult. Always reach out if you see something that's really inappropriate or something that makes you incredibly uncomfortable, because making sense of the world is really important, and making sense of, someone purposely trying to just make our day a little bit more awful is also really important. So chapter 8, shameful feelings. What happens when we are the person that offended somebody else? We just made a mistake. We lost. We let people down. That's shame. That's our identity. Is not only did we make a choice that we regret or we feel guilty about, but we now feel like we're a bad person. I would say probably 20 or 30% of the sessions that I have are primarily addressing shame and shameful feelings that we have. And there's this entire realm of acceptance and commitment therapy that I use, or ACT, that's called addressing your defective core beliefs. So our defective core beliefs are usually like, I'm worthless, I'm no good, I am, an awful human being. And whenever you have that shame of your identity, not just, regret of your behavior, that is the primary driver of depression continuing. So if you are feeling really sad, and then you feel really sad because you were really angry, and when you're really angry, you hurt somebody that you cared about, and you don't know how to repair it, you don't know how to then work through it, or the person won't forgive you, how do you work through shame? Well, this journal is the first step, and just documenting it, writing it down, and understanding that shame is a part of everyday life. We can't have a perfect existence that we treat everyone in the way that they deserve to be treated. So shame is a key aspect of our experience and our life. But what's the opposite of shame? Pride. So I had a chapter just dedicated to pride. What are we proud of? What do we do? What do we, think of ourselves whenever we feel this sense of pride? We feel this sense of accomplishment. And in doing so, I noticed that, well, pride is when we worked really hard on something. I've created huge things in Minecraft that I'm really proud of. I'm never going to get paid for it. I don't think anyone else in the world cares about it. But man, I built this amazing thing in Java with a bunch of mods, with all the kind of built-in things that users have created. And I have this world that I'm just, glad that occurred. I'm really proud of that. And a lot of, my clients, a lot of gamers out there have spent a lot of time in Minecraft creating these amazing things, and feeling a sense of pride in that maybe parents wouldn't appreciate, maybe other peers wouldn't. You're able to then say, like, I feel like, like my chest is a little bit light. I feel like, I'm a little bit even tearing up sometimes. I'm so proud of this thing. Or I had a big win, or, I'm breathing a little bit more slowly, and I'm just glad that I'm here in this world, and I'm proud of who I am and how I contributed to this particular thing that I created. So pride is incredibly important, and not to be ignored in an emotion journal. So lesson 4, it's the final page of the book. We're already, getting close to the end here. So I wrote a nice thing, and I just did not all the big things I created, but something that any kind of reader can create is I just created a field of flowers. I went through all the different flowers that you could have in Minecraft and just made a field of flowers. So if you just want to feel peaceful, you just want to feel content, you're done dealing with all these emotions for the day, here's the place to chill. Just go in and create a place that's not a lot of accomplishments, not a lot of PvP, just a beautiful place to then sit and, enjoy the weather in Minecraft. So I gave you a little example is that the moment I realized the benefit of Minecraft to your mental health was back in around 2015. I don't even know the exact year, but I think it was 2015. My kid was about 8 then. And we just, had this biome and we just started planting stuff and creating it. And he just kind of paused and he's like, it's amazing. I love this place. Look over here, look over there. And I didn't recognize at that point. I was just trying to like understand Minecraft to begin with. And he's like, this makes me happy. So I thought about a time recently where we went to the park, we rolled around the grass, had a great time, and I saw so many parallels of going in Minecraft and just creating something in creative mode, and then also going out in the real world and just enjoying nature. It's not as different as you think it is because my emotions were the same. And if I equate my emotion between that experience and then being in the park, they're very similar. So the more that we can recognize emotional similarities between the digital world and the real world, I think that's a great way of us understanding our kids that much better. Lesson 5. So now understanding that, I know a lot of caregivers, a lot of parents are actually really uncomfortable saying, I'm going to go buy Minecraft for myself and then go join my kid and then we're going to play together. That's uncomfortable for me. That's weird for me. Yes, it totally is for many parents. But it's so important to then truly understand it. Because just like if your kid was into soccer and you had to figure out the rules of soccer, or if they were into chess, like the basics of chess, playing Minecraft or playing any online game that your kid's really passionate about is the same exact thing. Even if it's something you know that you're not going to be into, it's not your jam. It's not something that you care about. You care about your kid. You care about, someone in your life that is a gamer. And this also goes for, marriages as well and spouses, because so many of our spouses and people that we care about are gamers too. Um, Whenever you get time spent with someone that you care about's primary interest, you show them that their emotions are valid, their experience is valid, their world is valid, and then you really start understanding the game. So as they tell you some stories or different experiences that they had, it's not you saying, "Oh, that's nice." It's you saying, "Oh, well, did you do that too? Oh, that's really rare. That's not so rare." So you'd have a way of giving them feedback that their world matters. And the more that you show someone that their world matters, they recognize that you think that they matter. So as you talk through something or you try to help them with emotional regulation otherwise, you earn that respect by truly validating their world and their experiences. And it helped them identify and express a wider range of emotions, help them with emotional regulation, help you with emotional regulation. So as parents or caregivers going through this book would really help you as well. And just, saying like, oh, let's just identify this emotion this week, or let's talk about pride, let's talk about shame. And the more we can name it, the more we can understand it, and the more we can connect with the people that we care about. So I had fun creating this. I, have given this presentation in different formats before, but I kind of summarized the whole book for this presentation. If you want more info, more content I created, I've done other podcasts, I've done interviews for my specialty of ADHD and autism. The reproducible, I gave the link here on the contact page. It's just michaeluram.com/emotion journal. My practice, Uram Family Therapy, that I'm the CEO of, we have, at any point 7 to 10 different therapists that I'm training on using these techniques because I want it to be the norm for therapy, not just I'm the random therapist that does this. So I kind of have my own internal institute of training other therapists to recognize gaming, recognize the emotional range that individuals have that isn't just intuitive or something that we learned in grad school. And I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. So look up Feelings Engineer on TikTok or Michael Uram MFT on Instagram. And I create content. I like talking about things. I like helping the general community understand their feelings a little bit more and making the world a slightly better place. So thanks for listening. And
Thanks.
I'd love to hear all questions that you have now.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, just raise your hand or, let us know that you have a question. Michael, I just had a question. I don't
Yeah.
know, we didn't talk about this ahead of time. Can you show us a screenshot or show us kind of the visual that people would typically see?
In Minecraft or in which
The
thing?
Minecraft, yeah. Is that possible or not so much?
No, I pulled it up to show you.
Okay.
So Here, let me pull that up. Let me share screen. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the library made out of bread. Yeah. So there's a bunch of creations over here that are on my realm, but whenever you go inside, there's a bunch of different bookshelves that you can pull a book from or interact with in some way. And over here they have lecterns. So there's a bunch of different uses for it in Minecraft, but one of them was just to make it look really oh, someone's saying hi. Make it look really cool to kind of enchant things. So here, let me open the book. So I wrote for today, like this particular book of literally just saying when we're meeting and what it looks like. So let's go into here. Oh, we wrote Harry Potter, one thing. So that was kind of fun.
Mhm.
Let's see. I'll just go into inventory and get a new one. So I realize I don't have a blank book and quill. Put it in here. So you click here and say, today was really rough.
And is this your personal book or can other people read it? Can you?
Uh, it's your choice, actually. So whenever you go through, and let me just get out of this. Whenever you write something down, you have the option of, let me show you over here, of keeping it in your own chest or keeping it in a chest that other people can access.
Mm.
So if you're on a server with other people, that's the only time you really have to worry about it. If it's your own server, your own kind of, Minecraft world, no one really has access to it. So it's all private anyway. So there's
So when you see clients, are you do they come into this world with you and you?
yeah. So they come into this world and then they have their own space where they create their own thing. So they have like their different chests that they, store things in and other people respect. But there's also a way of keeping in a chest that other people can't see.
So these might be your clients' chests or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So then let's say I go through and I want to just journal for today. So let's say, today gave a presentation. Oh, I turn on caps lock. And then you'd say like, well, what feelings did you feel? Okay, so I was nervous at first. All right. I then felt comfortable after I get started. It's like I know like you do the um like helping individuals give presentations too. Like that's kind of the thing is as you are about to do something, you have anticipatory anxiety. And then whenever you're doing it, your heart rate goes down. So and some of the other videos I go, if you even go online, I actually have like a digital watch where I can show like as I play Fortnite, like am I getting more stressful? Am I more
Oh yeah, and
relaxed?
you sometimes
Yeah.
you in our session, I think you showed us a heart rate monitor that you
Yeah.
could put on the screen.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally. Yeah.
anybody else have some questions? I like the fact that you decided to write a book about this. Have other therapists responded to the book and talked to you about using it?
Yes and no. So the therapists that have reached out to me about it have said that, oh, that's really interesting. That's, really fascinating. I'm going to send clients to you. I'm like, oh, that helps. Thank you. But I would like for you to read through it. I'd like for you to incorporate it so then I can also refer to you too. Because I mean, I've been booked full for years now. And like I started hiring different therapists to then be able to help clients. But I want this just to be a normal thing that if you go to see a therapist, you don't just have the therapist do the traditional CBT, interventions without really recognizing that most of our clients are gamers now. And this would make a little bit more sense. This would really help the concept stick if you used it, if you really, went through and kind of incorporated all these different techniques in your own practice, not just, saying that, I'll send you to Michael.
Any anybody else have any questions or discussion, or did you want to say something, Michael?
I was just going to show you. As I was talking, I went through and just did a tour of the level, and I talked about different emotions. That I was just finding this example from recent past was a client was talking about just losing a pet, and we then talked about just understanding in the digital world is sometimes it can help us model grief. So at one point they're creating signs of the different dogs that had passed away, or different creatures, and then actually wrote like what it says on the screen about how they passed away. So this dog that he was writing about was shot by a floofy skeleton. So like there's like skeletons with bows and arrows, but we just named it Floofy. So Floofy ended up, killing his dog in game, and it was really sad. But it was a way of just modeling grief and loss. And there's just a cat that's really loyal to me. I must have given it fish at some point. Maybe it's stuck down there. And I was just going to go through and show you that we actually have a graveyard as well. So it's not always just positive emotions or adventures. And this purple thing here will take you to the underworld. So I can show you that in a second. But Minecraft isn't just about just random quests that you go on. Like they're just talking about like, loss and sadness as well. So it's really versatile going into an online environment and understanding emotional expression.
Are most of your sessions in person where you're playing together, or are they, a telehealth thing where are you using the game to talk? How is it usually conducted?
The gaming developed mostly throughout the pandemic whenever we were meeting primarily through telehealth. And I found it to be really effective, actually probably more effective if we're going to game online together to even be remote. Because it's a safer place, it's a little less overwhelming. And I guess that example you then gave is you can sometimes be your more authentic self online than you can be in the real world, because you have to worry about sensory experiences or safety, or just the overall just environment feels more vulnerable if you're forced to be, face to face with somebody.
And anecdotally, Michael, what kind of changes or growth have you seen in some of your clients through using this type of therapy?
The best change I've seen is trusting. So trusting the world, trusting themselves. Because if you're able to just identify a lot of emotions or work through things in this environment, I've shown them that they can kind of trust a therapist. And I will kind of really stop what I'm doing to dive into their world as they see it. And that's a trauma for a lot of autistic individuals, of just knowing that so many people that love you and care for you may not be diving into, your world in a way that you feel truly understood. It doesn't feel, authentic. So by having this experience and this reparative experience of talking through your emotional state, that's probably the best gain that I've seen out of, using this format.
Yeah, and I could see for a lot of people that we come in contact with, that having somebody that they can trust, that they can talk to about their feelings and about their life, that having that trusted relationship, it takes a long time. And if you're meeting them in their world, then where they're comfortable already, then it just by association in a supportive place, they can feel more trust, and then you can probably accomplish things that maybe would be much more difficult in the typical physical office environment.
Exactly. And I don't know if you saw during that time, right? The one client created a TNT cannon, so that shot me up, and you could see the whole world. And I landed next to the cow farm where all the cows are named Floofy. But because it's that abstract side of this. So yes, hopefully they do feel a little bit more understood. And whenever the quirkiness or an individual's quirkiness is celebrated, um, and you just get to have those experiences, you can't do this in real life. So there's things that you can do online or in a server that you truly can't experience in any other format.
Hmm.
And yeah, you can just go around anywhere here and
Okay,
just be
well,
yourself, create random stuff. Yeah.
we've gone past our, no, I guess we have about a few more minutes. Any other questions or comments from folks that joined us today? Michael, thank you so much. This was really interesting, and I'm glad you were flexible enough to show us a demo for those that haven't been in the Minecraft world. I'm slapping his hands.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And thank everybody for joining us. We're recording this session. There's when we send you the recording, Mike, there is a link to the PowerPoint, and I can put it in the chat, but we will be sending it to you with a copy of the recording.
Yeah, that for anyone else that has any further follow-up questions, or you come across this video later on down the road, I'm always up for, answering any question, no matter how big or how small. And I'll probably keep evolving my approach based on what works or what doesn't. And I think that's kind of the best approach to life, is just keep figuring out what works best and adapting to how things evolve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody. Have a
Thanks,
wonderful
Judy.
day.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.